Beirut, first leg of our journey to the Swiss military observers. Modern buildings, along with past splendour, characterise the face of this million-strong metropolis. And again, the traces of violent conflicts, the history of which is as old as the region itself. UN military observers have been deployed to the Middle East since 1948. We want to see what their work in southern Lebanon looks like today. We leave the city, heading south. Our goal, the UN protection zone in southern Lebanon. After a 2-hour drive, we pass a checkpoint of the Lebanese army at the Lithani River and see armoured UN vehicles for the first time.
Are withdrawn to north of Litani River. That's the reason why I don't have problems anymore.
Next morning, entrance to the headquarters of the UN forces in Nakura.
One moment, please.
Each vehicle is thoroughly checked as the roughly 12,000 UN blue helmets and 50 international military observers receive their orders from here, and security is the highest priority. Since 1990, Swiss officers are deployed for 1-year terms to this mission as UN military observers. It's Tuesday, handover day at headquarters. After 7 days of uninterrupted service, the military observer teams return and are relieved by other teams.
I got still my luggage.
Here we meet the Swiss officer Major Miguel Bernhard. He is deputy team leader of Team Zulu. We will accompany him on his tour for a day. Handover is routine, and after less than 90 minutes, all the information has been exchanged, the necessary equipment transferred and reloaded, and off we go. From headquarters in Nakura, our route takes us on bumpy roads and through small settlements along the Blue Line, the demarcation line between Israel and Lebanon. An hour later, in Aita Ashab, in the house of Mr. Adnan, the interpreter of the Team Zulu, where Major Bernhard explains what it's all about.
He tells me what happened in the village yesterday evening. Or like now, what's been going on in the last 10 days when I was on leave. What's going on in the country, I know from the internet, but he tells me about the local occurrences before we leave.
Lokale, regionale News und das erzählt mich und tut mich updaten.
And of course I discuss with him in detail what today's schedule is.
Was wir heute machen werden.
So, Mr. Adnan is more than just an interpreter. As a local, he also brings in his knowledge of the situation. And shortly afterwards, Major Bernhard and his colleague, Captain Tracy Tibbs from New Zealand, begin their patrol. On entering the vehicle, we have the impression that all our movements are being observed by hidden eyes. An uncanny feeling that will remain with us for the entire journey. First stop of the patrol, Yaren, a Shiite village less than 10 kilometers away. Fatma and Ahmed normally process their tobacco and olive harvest under this tree. Today, the plastic chairs are standing in the shade.
The idea here is to talk with the family, to find out how things are going, privately, financially, and generally in the village. It isn't a question of security or politics. No, it's about normal everyday life. I don't want to hear the official statements such as those of the Mukhtar or the Provost. No, I want to know what's on people's minds, how they're doing. And subsequently, I integrate this down-on-the-ground information into my reports.
Was es so läuft, down on the ground, wie wir sagen.
Although everything seems peaceful, there is something uncanny about the atmosphere here.
Yeah, from joke.
Less than an hour later, we are obliged to move on.
Was ich da machen ist eine von den 3.
We can do patrols with vehicles, helicopters, or on foot. Today we're taking the car.
Machen wir die gängigste und das ist die mit dem Auto. Wir fahren.
We drive alongside the blue line, visit defined points, observe the line, and report any occurrences.
Irgendwelche Vorkommnisse, die könnten passieren. Und jetzt sind wir unterwegs.
Now we're on the way to one of these observation points from which we have a good overall view of the blue line.
Von einer gewissen Entfernung können sehen.
Major Bernhard wants to show us the blue line, the demarcation line between Israel and the Lebanon. But this is by no means so easy.
You have been told already about the event that
At this border, which isn't a border, where each side suspiciously watches the other and no step remains unobserved, the military observer's status of impartiality has to be followed strictly.
on our side. Goes all the
So we keep our distance as Major Bernhard explains the exact course of the blue line to his colleague.
technical fence road, up the hill, continues.
And after 8 hours of patrol, Team Zulu returns to its base in the UN Blue Helmet camp of Sergeant Girardi. Since 2007, the unarmed military observers are no longer based on their own observation posts. For security reasons, they rely on the infrastructure of these camps. We leave Team Zulu, drive on to the eastern sector, where another Swiss national has been assigned to Team Sierra. Team Base East, next morning at 7 o'clock. Also here, to the northeast of the protection zone, the military observers launch their patrols from a UN Blue Helmet camp. Today, their route brings them first to Kiam, a town with a Shiite majority. For the military observers, Kiam has a painful reputation. Until July 2006, there was a UN observer post here. But during the Lebanese war in 2006, the 3-story UN building was destroyed by Israeli air attacks, and 4 military observers lost their lives. And at the location of the former UN observation post, we meet the Swiss officer Captain Nico Grandjean, his Australian colleague Rowena Palfrey, and Eddie the interpreter. It's quiet today, but what has attracted the attention of the observers?
Our translator draws our attention to dust clouds, usually an indication of the movement of tanks or military vehicles, as they don't use roads. Now we try to identify the type of vehicle, allow them to come a little closer, but we assume that they're 2 Meccano battle tanks moving to new Israeli IDF positions.
Maintenance work, technical fence road. Okay.
Observing and reporting, that's their mission. What is the challenge of such a mission?
The political situation is one that's constantly changing. It's impossible to predict how things will develop, and the situation can change from one second to another.
We are reminded of how quickly the situation can change by a memorial stone nearby. It is dedicated to 6 Spanish blue helmets who lost their lives in a bomb attack on their vehicle. Before we leave Lebanon, we still make a trip to Kafar Chuba, a small village very close to the famous Sheba farms. As a farewell, the military observers invite us to their favourite haunt to enjoy freshly baked manoushis and lambashins. For 2 days, we have accompanied the military observers on their difficult mission, often under rapidly changing general conditions, in a frequently highly unstable environment. The path between closeness to the population and overall factual distance is a constant tightrope walk. What echoes in our ears is what military observers are called here: truth people. In other words, people who are willing to keep their eyes open impartially and to ensure that violations of the ceasefire agreement or the mandate do not remain unnoticed.